So first of all, I'm very pleased to be here at this conference of the Agri-Food Regulator. And I would like to thank Joe Healy, in particularly the chair of the Agri-Food Regulator, for inviting me to participate and for this opportunity to address you all here today. I want to also start by commending Joe, Niamh Linehan, the CEO, and all the board members for this excellent conference, which has given us all the opportunity to reflect on fairness and transparency in the agri-food supply chain. I'd like to start, however, by when I come to a conference like this, and I also want to recognise, of course, Deputy Martin Kinney for being here, and also Deputy Carol Nolan, and I hope I'm not missing others. And to thank you for being here today, and to thank you for the work that you do in the agri side of politics and that side of the house. But I want to start off today by, when you're here at a conference like this, I like to remember back. And the evolution of agriculture and the way we've progressed with agriculture in Ireland has been absolutely amazing. Now, I presume that every one of you in the room would remember the book, The Tailor and Anstey. And if you haven't, I won't get into it, but I hope that you have. The Tailor and Anstey, very famous couple, but the tailor himself, he came from where I'm from, a place called Loughnan. And in that house after him, there were two brothers, typical of Ireland in the past. They were relations of mine, close relations, Paddy and Timmy Buckley. Why I want to illustrate what they did, I want to compare it to where we are today and when we talk about food regulation. Paddy and Timmy were very, very smart. They were very old-fashioned, but they were very smart. The two of them died in the early, maybe around 2005 to 2010, the two of them passed away, but they worked very hard up until when they died. But they really had agriculture for its time cracked. And what I mean by that is I know exactly what they had because I used to work on the farm with them. Paddy, in his name, he had a herd number, he had 20 dairy cows. Timmy had 20 sucking cows. Now that was a lot for, going through the 60s up into the 70s, 80s, and so on. They also had a hill, and the two of them had two flock numbers. And the two of them had two separate flocks of sheep. They kept pigs, hens, they used to kill their own pigs, and they really were said that one thing that they had every type of thing in the world, but one thing that neither of the two of them ever had was a woman. So they got through life, however they managed it without a woman in the house. But there were two real characters. And why I wanted to draw that into this conversation is to show where we were with agriculture. And they would have actually been two big farmers at that time. When I was growing up, they were busy farmers. But of course they were busy because Timmy was the man with the scythe. He used to mow hay with the scythe, and if a job could be done the hard way or the easy way, they were hell intent on doing everything the hard way. And thankfully, agriculture, food production, of course, we've come on. But I just want to remind people about where we have actually come from, because I will always say this everywhere you go, and it's the same with any work, it's the same with everything we ever do. If you don't remember or know where we came from, we don't know where we're going to. But at least I think we do because it's nice to remember the way things were in the past. Ireland's agri-food sector is the backbone of our rural economy. At the very core of the sector are the farmers who care for our land and produce. They're internationally renowned all over the world for the food which is shipped all over the globe. Our sector has proved resilient through successive challenges, including Brexit, COVID, the invasion of the Ukraine, and the impact of these events on supply chains and the market. However, we must work together to ensure we maintain this strength and resilience. One of the key factors in enabling our viable and sustainable farming communities to thrive is to ensure there is fairness and transparency in the food supply chain. And of course, that is so important. The establishment of the Agri-Food Regulator has been a landmark step in this regard. Since its foundation, the regulator has sought to bring fairness and transparency for all stakeholders. It has also provided a voice for farmers, fishers, and small food businesses. And indeed, even where I come from myself, and I know all of the politicians around the country, we work so much with small businesses that are offshoots of the agri side of the house. And those small businesses mean so much because their reputation is of paramount importance to themselves, to the community, and of course they give real and local employment. We now have an independent state body that will help to safeguard our food suppliers against unfair trading practices. The regulator, in the short time since it was established, has already shown that it listens and delivers successful outcomes. Such successes send a clear message that unfair trading practices will not be tolerated in Ireland's agri-food system. And that again is so important, because our reputation, our respectability, both nationally and internationally, is so important to us all. And that is why politically we support the work of the regulator. The regulator's effective enforcement of our legislation. It validates the regulatory framework, proving that it is not merely symbolic, but that it also shows that the law will be pursued and acted upon. It emboldens other suppliers to come forward, knowing they will be protected. It puts pressure on dominant players to assess their own practices and to ensure compliance. And perhaps most importantly, it restores trust that the system can work for the small suppliers. And when I say the trust element of this, again, we can all benefit from the work that the regulator does and what it performs on a daily and weekly basis in the monitoring world, because that is so important. And our reputation again, and I will keep talking about reputation when I talk about Irish agriculture, because we have an excellent reputation. Let me be clear. Ireland has become one of the finest agricultural food enterprises in the world. We are not trying to diminish those achievements. This is simply about enforcing the basic principles of fairness and reminding industry that size does not grant any stakeholder an exemption from adherence to the law. That said, enforcement alone is not enough. We must also focus on education and effective communication between suppliers and buyers within our food system. These principles are important to deliver on. Some unfair practices may stem not from malicious intent, but from a lack of awareness and poor communication. That is why the work of the Agri-Food Regulator's Office in industry engagement and guidance publication is so vital to the sector. The European Commission's participation at the conference today is an indication of the importance it places on the work of member states to bring great fairness to the sector. And I would also like to thank very sincerely Patricia Kelly for her contribution here today, which is very important. I was pleased to hear reiterated the European Commission's ambition for a thriving EU farming and agri-food sector, as reflected in its communication, A Vision for Agriculture and Food. We must all work together to ensure existing practices that are working well and to the benefit of all are maintained. We are an open and export-orientated nation, and nowhere is that more marked than in the agri-food sector. Last year was another record year with the overall agri-food export value coming in at over 19 billion euros. Given this export focus, I welcome the EU proposal for a regulation to copper-fasten the legal basis for cross-border cooperation between European UTB enforcement agencies. Such cooperation with our European partners would help to bring added protection to our very important suppliers. On any changes to the UTPs in the future, we await the outcome of the European Commission's evaluation of the UTP directive that is due at the end of this year. As well as enforcement of UTPs, another function of the regulator is to bring more transparency to the market where there is a vacuum of information, trust between suppliers and buyers that can be more difficult to develop and maintain. The regulator can help to shine more light on the agri-food sector by providing sectoral price and market analysis reports. Over the last year, the regulator has performed welcome analysis on the egg and horticultural sectors and publish reports on its website. These are important tools to assist food suppliers in their decision making. However, while there has been much positive engagement with the regulator, there are a minority of operators who simply have not provided the requested data. And to be honest, that is not good enough, because those people have to realize what we're all trying to do is just improve the situation for those people also. And it's like everything in life. If they come forward, give the information, we can all work better and in a more productive way. And it's way better to be inside the tent than to be outside it. You've heard earlier today Minister Martin Heydon clearly state that it is his intention to ensure the regulator is fully equipped to carry out its statutory functions. And I know that is something very important to Minister Heydon. And I just want to say at this point, when I'm mentioning him, we're very lucky to have Martin Heydon as our Senior Minister for Agriculture. I believe he's deeply committed, very hardworking, and will be a great success for Irish farmers over the next number of years. I would like to conclude by commending the Agri-Food Regulator for the important role it now plays within the agri-food sector. In a relatively short period of time, the regulator has managed to engage with a variety of stakeholders and, in my view, have assisted in bringing more trust to the marketplace. Since the establishment of the Agri-Food Regulator, I believe that a new focus has been brought to maintaining fairness in our trading relationships. The work that the regulator is doing is of huge importance, particularly to our primary producers. Our dedicated food suppliers are the foundation of our agri-food sector. As it is clear from today's conference and the experience so far, we can achieve the strongest outputs for all stakeholders when we have mutual respect and trust embedded in our financial and business relations. I hope that everyone can take the key learnings from today and apply them in their own business relationships. With the assistance of the Agri-Food Regulator, and by us all working together, I feel assured that we can continue to be the envy of other food-producing nations. We can build an agri-food supply chain that it reflects the best of Ireland, a system that is resilient, that is fair, and is rooted in respect. And thank you all very, very much.